Hello and welcome to Spooning with me, Mark Wogan. Yes, each week I'm joined by a very special guest and we will challenge the food that they think they love and the food that they think they hate. Now, where are we this week, I hear you cry? Yes, we are at my old friend Richard's place, Corrigan's Mayfair. Yes, we're still in Mayfair, our spiritual home. But our special guest today, well, he spent the 90s telling you how to sort your garden out. He might be responsible for the whole decking industry in this country and water features, along with his friend Charlie. He now shows us how to love our weekends. He is an institution. He has green fingers. He's a poet. He's an author. He's a singer. He is, of course, Alan Titchmarsh, CBE. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Mark. I hardly recognise myself.
Well, that is you.
And the bit about the institution is he should be in one.
In
That's
one,
probably
yes.
what it is.
What's it? Who was the line? Was it? It was the famous American actress. Marriage is an institution. I'm just not ready for an institution yet. But you're a very happily married man of how many years?
50 in July.
50.
Well, if we make it, if we get.
See, you're exactly double what I am. I'm 25. Now, in the background, there is somebody sawing something up, but we're in a new location, so we'll just have to bear with it. But, if we go all the way back, you are a Yorkshire lad.
I am.
Born in Ilkley.
Yep. Right.
And you're very proud. Is there such a thing as a Yorkshireman who's not proud?
Yeah, but the thing is, when you say a proud Yorkshireman, there's an implication there that, everything else is rubbish. And I've lived in Hampshire for, an awful long time now. People say, if Yorkshire's that good, what are you doing living in Hampshire? And I always say missionary work.
Yes.
Because you do. But I travelled. I came down. I lived in Yorkshire until I was 20, and then came down to Kew Gardens as a student. And I taught there and worked there. And I've met my wife down here. So work and life and friends, really. I made my friends when I was in my 20s, and they're here. So.
But your grandfather was a gardener. Your father was a gardener.
No, my great-grandfather and my grandfather were gardeners. My dad was a plumber.
Your dad was a plumber, wasn't
And when I said I wanted to be a gardener, he thought I was nuts.
he? And in very typical Yorkshire style, your mother worked at the mill.
She did, yeah. Before they got married, as soon as I came along, which was 2 years after they got married, then she became a full-time mum. And my sister and I...
Or domestic technician, as it's now known.
Exactly. Then she just said full-time mum.
Yeah.
But it was a classic, Monday wash day, Tuesday shopping, Wednesday ironing. And so we had this kind of week. It was a proper 1950s childhood, of course, because I was born in 1949. And it was an interesting time to be a child. I'm afraid so, yes. As your father used to say, clean living and a fish diet is what
exactly.
My complexion is. The thing was, it was a time when Britain was catching its breath after the war. Yeah. And there didn't seem to be kind of pressure. Yeah, you were. And people were just grateful to come home and know their house would still be standing. And growing up in Wharfdale, in the Yorkshire Dales, so moors, river, woods, just playing out the whole time when we were at weekends all the day.
So a sort of bucolic childhood.
Very much so, yeah.
But you weren't big as a lad, were you?
No, I lived up to the first half of my surname. Titch, yeah. No, I was very small. When I left school, eventually at 15 with an O-level in art, to go...
More than I got.
To be an apprentice. Well, I'm boasting about it in front of you, Mark. To be an apprentice in local parts of nursery, I was 4'10". And I grew to 5'8" in about a year under glass in the greenhouse. So it's a technique I recommend if you have a small child, bring them in a greenhouse and they grow.
But a passion for all things outdoors was early, wasn't it? Is it the Wharfdale Naturalist Society?
Yeah.
Which is different to the Wharfdale Naturists.
There aren't many in the Naturalist Society in Wharfdale. It's too cold. But yeah, I joined when I was 8 and I'm still a member. I think I must probably be their longest surviving member, I suppose, now. And I'm still very fond of them. I still get the emails about, meeting...
God, they've gone digital.
Invertebrates. Oh, they have, yeah. And fungi forays and all that.
But that sparked a passion for bird watching and wildlife and all that sort of thing. But gardens and plants, that started early, didn't it?
Yeah, because the garden was the nearest bit of countryside, the nearest bit of earth, a bit of nature. And I'd always loved nature. And I built my own little polythene greenhouse when I was about 12. And if you do something and you succeed at it, if you plant a seed and it comes up, or you take a cutting and it roots. It's very encouraging because you think, I can do this. And I was quite used at school to being told, "Oh, shut up, Titchmarsh, sit down," you know. I kind of...
Were you an obstreperous child?
No, I wasn't at all obstreperous. I was very keen and enthusiastic, but easily crushed.
Oh.
And, you know, when you'd put your hand up, "Oh, sir, Titchmarsh," yes, you know. And I felt it did weigh quite heavily on me that I felt... I was a classic late developer, really. I had very little self-confidence. I know you wouldn't believe it now, but... And it still affects and attacks me on occasions. Like a lot of people in our business, I wait for the tap on the shoulder and "Thank you, come away."
Yes.
Thank you, Mary, you've delighted us long enough.
You've been getting away with it for too long. But isn't that strange? Because, you know, there is that misconception that when somebody achieves what you've achieved, that it's born out of a rampant confidence that sort of drove you forward because of an enduring self-belief. But that's quite the opposite in you.
Quite the reverse. The self-confidence still isn't there in spades, pardon the pun. But I know what I can do now. I've been lucky enough to find what I hope I'm good at least it's earned me a living, which is talking to people, writing, sharing a passion, you know, gardening on TV or interviewing people. I like folk. I've always found people interesting. And I like sitting down. Somebody said, "What's the secret of interviewing?" I said, "Well, only ever ask a question you want to know the answer to." And it's as simple as that, really. And I enjoy finding out about people.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've enjoyed about doing this is just that the thing of having a conversation and sitting at a table always helps. But the first plants, because obviously you know what you're describing there is somebody who is, you know, likes interacting with people, you know, doesn't enjoy a solitary kind of moment. But
I do.
Yeah, but you see, that's what I was going to say. Gardening is quite solitary.
Gardening's solitary and writing's solitary. And what I have in the career I've been blessed to discover is a perfect balance between the two. I'm very happy chatting to you. I prefer it if I were asking the questions.
Yes.
Because I just hear myself droning on. However, that I enjoy.
Try not to listen now.
But I could not do without being on my own. There's a world of difference between loneliness and solitude.
Yeah.
And solitude for me is vital. Gardening on my own, yet with birdsong, writing in silence. I don't have music or anything on, and being, particularly with a novel which I'm working on at the moment, novel number 13. It's you're in the zone, kind of. If it's going well. How
disciplined are you?
Oh, totally.
Do you have to put set times in? It's
well,
like I write between these hours, and then
I tend to get up early. I'm generally up by 7, sometimes early, but generally by 7 I'm up. And I'll go out
dressed.
Oh yes,
I mean, because my alarm goes.
Showered and shaved. I shave every day, even when I'm sitting at home writing.
You can see the razor as a vape.
Yeah, stranger to the cutthroat. Which is much more fashionable now. And
I met
Prince
Philip once, and his opening gambit was, "Good God, who's your barber?" It was like, you know, obviously, I don't think Prince Philip had ever shaved his own face, had he?
Oh, I don't know. I never. I remember once seeing a tiny little dab of shaving foam on his ear and thinking, "Oh, you wet shave," as one does.
But I think that, you know, you started early with a spider plant in terms of growing things. Now, my mother, God rest her soul, was a very keen gardener. And in fact, the money that she spent on her garden meant that we inherited very little. But I mean, it was an impressive garden. But when my sister was born, who's a couple of years younger than me, she got given a spider plant. And my mother, that spider plant is still alive in her conservatory now. We've all had offshoots of that spider plant.
Wonderful.
So whenever we left to move out the house, we got given one of these spider plants. We all killed them. But Mum's one's still alive.
That's a talent. I mean, it takes talent to kill a spider plant. My line about growing things is they want to live. It's up to us not to get in the way.
Right.
You clearly got in the way an awful lot.
Yes. But there is that thing.
I can give you one. I've still got one. I'll give you one.
Excellent. But there's that thing. And I wonder if it's the same as a gardener as it is with being a chef or a cook, right? So when I watch certain people cook, who will remain nameless, on the TV, I cannot bear how their hands move around.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Food. Is it the same with gardeners? You see other people gardening on TV and you go, oh, good God, that's not how you handle it.
Yeah, totally. That's
What are they
very
doing?
interesting, because I noticed that in gardening, and I can tell whether somebody has a feel for gardening. And it's an innate, basic aptitude. You can't teach it in a way. And yes, I do see people and they're patting compost down. When I worked as an apprentice in the Parks Department, and I was shown how to pot a plant properly, and the Parks foreman, and there's the pot, here's the compost going, and it's something to do with the relaxation in the hands. And if you put your thumbs in to firm it, he'd get a garden cane and he'd tap you on the back of your hand. You use your fingers to firm it. And I can see by the tension in people's hands when they're gardening, whether I consider them to be at ease with growing things or whether it's a kind of overlay.
Is there, because I know there is in food, is there someone out there, and we don't want names here, Alan, but is there someone out there who is very omnipresent within the world of gardening and plants, who you think they're not a gardener?
I couldn't possibly comment on that. I refuse to be drawn on that. But there are people who are like that.
A crap.
I don't go that far. Almost that far, but not that far.
So you get up in the morning at 7. And is writing every day?
Mostly, yes. If I'm at home, it's writing. If I'm doing Love Your Weekend, I'm out early to do the boarding.
You start every day with a simple breakfast
I do.
of Shreddies.
This is the only morning I haven't had them because I knew I was coming here and I had to eat when I got it.
Look, hold on a second. I've got a bowl down here.
Oh, lovely.
I've got some milk. We've got everything here.
No, I didn't have them before I came.
Well, there we go. Let's indulge in some Shreddies. Really, Shreddies.
I know. It's a childhood throwback, I think.
I love that. I mean, you know, because I'm not a big breakfast person myself. I don't.
It's about that many.
And how much milk do you have with your Shreddies?
Oh,
are you a drowner or just a splasher?
Oh no, pretty drowny, really.
Oh yeah. No.
So I can spoon it up at the end, about that much.
No, because you kind of want the milk, the flavoured milk soup at the end, don't you?
Yeah, I don't put sugar on them. I do occasionally have a dribble of honey on them.
Oh, but I don't think we've got any here.
No, but what is key, now this is very important, it's key. Now, I could talk to you now for 2 minutes before I ate these. Mistake.
Yes.
They go soggy.
Yeah, they go soggy
Timing
very quickly.
is critical. You need to get them all moistened by the milk.
Did you see that TV program where they had top chefs trying to make Shreddies?
No.
Yeah, it was fascinating. They're almost impossible to make without the sort of massive equipment. They still got the crunch. See, look, he's happy now. You see, I sit people down, I give them food, I make them happy. So you've got this job at Kew, which for a young man who loves all things plant and wildlife and everything sounds like a pretty cushy job. You've got, you know, an office, you've got a brief. Was it you've got a briefcase with?
Well, yeah. When I went there, I went as a student.
Yeah.
3-year course for a diploma in horticulture. Not cushy at all.
Okay.
3-month lecture block, mycology, taxonomy, all kinds of botany, landscape design, landscape construction, a comprehensive course over 3 years.
Did you enjoy the theory part of it?
Oh, yeah.
I
enjoyed learning. But then to be released into the gardens and had a year in the palm house, looking after one of the rarest plants on earth. They said it's the only one that's kind in cultivation. Don't kill it. So relieved to come out. It was collected by Captain Cook, I think it was.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
Or did someone
mercifully,
kill it?
No.
You're
Every student is only too willing to get out of that greenhouse and go on. So that was only, but then I stayed on there as supervisor of staff training, and I devised staff training courses for practical gardening, and I loved doing it.
So isn't that interesting? So you always liked early to impart your knowledge to
I
others.
thought I wanted to teach until I realised 2 things. One is that you had to teach the same thing year in, year out, and the other was that not everybody wanted to learn.
No.
And when you're like telling something,
I was very difficult to teach.
I bet you were awful because you'd be looking away, looking out the window.
Don't. I think they call it ADHD now.
Well, they've got a term for everything now. Everything has to have a name.
Got to have a name.
Yeah.
We're all neurodiverse now, aren't we?
I've had the ointment for it though.
Yes, exactly.
Much better.
Yeah, the rash is cleared up. But so So you're doing that, and that's sort of through late 60s into the early 70s, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you get a job as a journalist.
Well, my boss at Q came in and said, "Who do we know who's got a literary bent?" So I said, "Me." So you better apply for this job, which was as an assistant gardening books editor at Hamlin, the book publishers. And I thought, oh, quite fancy. I'd got to the stage, I'd devised the courses, and I'd then got into the repetition mode. And I thought, I'm bored, actually. I'm in the finest place, as you say, briefcase with ER written on it, a bike, I could cycle around the gardens, a key. And I got one of the old keys to Kew Gardens that said Royal Gardens Kew. And I thought, this is a very prestigious job. How could you really want to give it up? And I thought, yeah, because I've kind of done it.
But I like the idea that you get a bike with the job.
Yeah, they'll have students ride them now. I think that's totally obvious. I was at the first level rank.
Was it a very special bike, like a Pashley?
No, it wasn't. It was a very old black bone shaker. But as a garden supervisor, you were allowed to ride a bike. Anyway, I just wanted a bit more stimulation. I think that was what it was, really. And I went off and...
Oh, now, hold on. Chef's bringing you in something here. Come in, Chef. Come in. Come in. We've cutlery. Yeah, we've got it all here. We'll take those spoons. Because now, look, you love... Sorry, what's your name? Sebastian.
Nice to meet you.
Mark, and this is Alan.
Nice to meet you.
Sebastian has brought you one of your favourite things here.
Vanilla rice pudding.
Vanilla rice pudding is.
With rhubarb on.
With rhubarb compote pistachios. Yes.
Oh, you're spoiling me. There you are.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Rice pudding with rhubarb. My fourth
rhubarb
is just about to be harvested.
It's about that time of year, isn't it? What's that?
Oh.
See, this is Mayfair stuff, Alan. This is... because rice pudding and sago puddings and semolinas and everything, that was all part of your childhood, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, this is divine. Delicious.
Oh, bloody hell, that's good.
Oh, isn't it?
Oh.
What a brilliant idea. So that's rhubarb compote, presumably.
You've got rhubarb compote.
Yeah.
And then you've got this...
Slight slivers of rhubarb. Look, they're really
I think
thin.
it's been dehydrated slightly. Or slightly pickled, isn't it?
Oh, but the combination is...
And then the crushed pistachios on the top. Oh, I could eat that all down. That's not on message.
No,
that's not part of my one meal a day.
I love the way we're starting with pudding.
Well,
a backwards meal. I'm not going to eat any more of that because I want to eat all of that now.
But I know, you see, they're very good.
Very good.
But I like occasionally, what I like to do is just go round a series of restaurants and just eat the desserts.
Really?
Yeah, I've got a chronic sweet tooth.
I'm going to write that down because we're going to go home and say to Mrs. T, rice pudding, rhubarb. I've got the rhubarb outside.
Well, no need to write it.
So what makes
we're recording this, so your wife can listen to the podcast.
Tell her why the rice pudding though is exceptionally creamy and soft, delicious. And so I'm going to have
I think we're going to have one more mouthful of that, and then we'll move on. Oh God, that's good. So you get the job, which then pushes you more towards the written word. And it results in you sort of then, towards the end of the 70s, you get your first TV gig.
Yeah.
On Nationwide.
Well, first TV, but I did radio from 77. I was... the lovely thing about going to the gardening books editor was my hero as a child had been Percy Thrower.
Yes.
I became Percy Thrower's editor.
Did you?
As a gardening books editor, so I got to meet the man. Which was
now, those who don't know Percy, I know of Percy Thrower because
he was the TV gardener.
He was TV gardener, but the Blue Peter Garden was a big thing.
It was.
I mean, we tuned in. I mean, can you imagine now trying to get kids enthused about a garden?
It's always been a challenge, but it's more of a challenge now than ever because of these things that they'd rather do.
Oh no, don't. No. But I remember, Percy Thrower and the Blue Peter Garden was. I mean, maybe we were short of things to watch.
Well, we only had 4 channels. Well, actually, probably back then we only had about 3.
But when you were a kid, that was interesting.
It was, and because I think children then, it was sounding like the old man moaning, there was a greater connection then between children and countryside and children and outdoors. You had television broadcasters. David Attenborough, of course, was on already at that time.
Yep.
So was Peter Scott, and who founded Slimbridge. There was a lot more nature about.
Yep.
And we living in the Yorkshire Dales, every Sunday we go for a run up the Dales. So we were more connected with it. And I think that's a great sadness for me today, is the disconnect between a generation and the great outdoors, because they've been drawn into a digital world and have lost connection with the greater, which is the most soul uplifting thing, is when the worries of the world really overtake you, and they've never been, I don't think, were more difficult to cope with than they are at the moment. Going out there and looking at a landscape which is stable, trees, moors, hills, rivers, go out there and absorb it and register with it, because it will help you. Lots of talk about mental health, but
absolutely. No, I think it's so important. I think, I know so many people who are helped by that, who suffer with, mental conditions or, just struggle with life. Who, the minute you put them outdoors and you take them for a walk, it changes their perspective on things. Now, is this subject something you will be covering on your new YouTube channel?
I hope so. It's to give people that connection. I mean, I've not done YouTube.
So you're launching this in April?
In April, 4th of April. And there'll be a new posting every Friday. There'll be several on the first day, and then every
And you're filming this at home?
Yes, in my own garden.
So at home in your own garden, unlike your other show, which is a couple of
your weekend is a couple of villages away.
That's a couple of villages away.
Barn, but I've adopted it.
What is it with you people who are on the weekend who give us the impression that you are in your own homes and you're not? I mean, James Martin does the same.
No, James is in his own.
Is he?
Yes, yeah. I've never, he really is.
He's never invited me up there, James.
Well, you're a rival, you see. I'm no rival. I grow them, he cooks them. So that's all right. But no, I've never said it's my own home. It's just where I am every Friday. Where I am every Sunday. But it's people associate you with a place, and suddenly it becomes yours. And
have you had people turn up to your house and disappointed it doesn't look like?
No, because they don't know where I live, which is something I refuse to tell them.
Now, the other thing is you've got something in your home. You've got something quite unique, haven't you? You've got a theatre.
Well, yes, I've
in your
barn next to the house, and we've made a little theatre in it with a stage at one end.
You love your dramatics.
Well, we met.
I mean, I don't want to say the word amateur, because you are quite obviously a professional.
All that means is you get paid. I mean, you're only good. Well, we met, Ali and I met in an amateur operatic society, and she was dancing and I was comeding a bit, or, light roles and singing. I've always loved singing. The only musical instrument I've ever had is any skill with is the voice.
That is something you share with my father. Do you know that? He was did a lot of light opera as a young man.
I didn't know that. The floral dance.
Oh, well, no.
Good singing.
Listen,
voice.
Hold on a second. The floral dance is scarring for me, because I had people singing that at me at school for most of the 70s. Thank you.
On behalf of your father, I apologise.
I mean, we when we were talking before, we sort of talked about that, and the sort of difficulties of a famous name. So, I have quite a unique surname. You have quite a unique surname. Did your kids struggle with that kind of stuff?
Yes, I think they did. I think what happens is, because, as you say, our two names are both quite identifiable. I'm not called Jones or Smith or whatever. And I think my two daughters were so relieved when they got married that they changed their name. But yes, not, I suspect, as difficult as it was for you. I mean, your father, when you were the age of my children, when they were coping with me, was stratospheric in terms of his fame. I mean, I was known, but I think what they found a bit easier was that it didn't suddenly come upon them. I was on television when they were born, so it was always there, as you were.
Yeah.
But it was difficult for them, I think, because...
But, I mean, the ground force years, I mean, you were pretty omnipresent. I mean, it was one of the biggest shows on TV.
Well, it was the second highest. It was when EastEnders was top at 15 million, we were getting 12. So we were number two.
Imagine getting 12 for anything now.
Yeah. And it was hard for them. I think one of the things they found difficult at school, though they have never to this day ever complained to me or said, "You don't know how difficult it is."
Just to their therapist. Just to their therapist.
I think they have to be a little bit more careful about if their friends were choosing them because of me.
Absolutely.
And mercifully, it appears not to be the case. They've had some very good friends.
No,
it's a pressure for a child, and you are aware of that as an adult in the public eye.
But I think it's, those because Ground Force came along, and obviously you'd had a very good career. You'd had the Pebble Mill years and all that sort of thing, and then suddenly you're sort of drawn back to gardening because you had those sort of in the 90s. There was no gardening for you.
Oh, there was. No, I kept it there, you see, because I was always writing about gardening.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of appearing on TV, it was, sitting alongside Gloria Hunniford. Or...
Yeah, well, it sort of developed because somebody said to me, "Have you thought of doing anything on telly other than gardening?" Because it was nationwide gardening, then breakfast time gardening. So I was gardening on the box up to the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
And then I got Open Air in Manchester and then Pebble Mill for 10 years. And I did a little item every week in my wellies where I did to show people I was still doing. And my writing...
I've still got it, baby.
Still got it. Haven't thrown a spade away. And then when I left Pebble Mill, I started doing Gardener's World. So I had a sort of 10-year break where I did very little TV gardening, but I was still doing it at home and whatnot. And then it sort of surged back. Never give up your day.
It really did surge back, though, because it was such... I mean, I'm trying to think back. Was it a sleeper hit, or from the minute it sort of... It went live because it started on BBC Two and then shifted over to One.
I took over from Jeff Hamilton on Gardener's World, which had been scheduled for me to do. Then Jeff died, sadly, suddenly, and I took over a bit early. That was in 96, and then Ground Force, the idea came up in 97. They said, "We want you to do a garden makeover." I said, "What's a makeover?" Well, you're 2 days to make it, and I thought, "You can't do it."
So what you're saying is the makeovers are your fault.
I'm afraid so.
Yeah.
So
then we got Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen and all those sort of people as well.
What? And I said, "Well, I won't say he couldn't do anything, but anyway, the rest is history."
Nick Knowles would have no career if it wasn't for you.
Just owes it all to me. But it was on BBC Two, as you say, and then they said to us, "It's too popular for BBC Two." I had the two top-rated programmes on BBC Two: Gardener's World and Ground Force. And they said, "We're moving."
Too popular for your own good.
You are. Moved it to BBC One, and then I noticed that almost everybody, when I walked down the street, would say hello. And I thought, and I got home. I remember the day quite well. And I got home and I thought, "Oh, I don't know that I like this." I've always been, not starstruck, but quite quiet, really. Whatever. And I
shy and retiring.
Yes, not quite, but nearly. Aspirationally shy and retiring. And I got home and I thought, well, you better sort of either get out now or just get used to this, because people are very nice. But then, and I thought, okay, so I got used to it.
But you had this sort of, quite frankly, bizarre, dysfunctional family sort of put around you in the form of Charlie Dimmock and Tommy Walsh. A giant and a flame-haired water feature expert.
Exactly.
I mean, was that sort of... What was the first day on set like with that? You're suddenly like these people, because neither of them really had any TV experience, did they?
Because when the producer came, it was conceived as a vehicle for me, which was very nice of them. And we did a pilot which was completely different. And then it started. We had the first, and he said, "I've found the exec producer knows a builder from Hackney who's got a bit of lip, and he's quite good."
A bit
of lip. Yeah, understatement was always his strong point. And he said, "We've found this girl. She works in a water garden nursery down in Hampshire. And she's got strawberry blonde hair and she doesn't wear a bra." And I said, "That's what he's selling." I mean, selling it. And I said, "Has she got any TV experience?" He says, "Well, she's got a gorgeous figure." I said, "Has she?" And I thought, I'm lost here. He's going to have this guy. Well, but from day one, the three of us clicked.
Yeah.
We just got on. Charlie's quite forceful.
Oh, yes.
Tommy, ditto. But we each recognised each other's skills, I think. And we enjoyed each other's company and took the mickey out of one another.
But I think people did quite like it when you bickered.
Oh, yeah.
As well.
But it was never contrived.
No.
If somebody blows sawdust over your bed of hostas, you get rattled if you're me. It wasn't made up. And you've only got 2 days. Anyway, but yeah.
So that ran for 5 years. Why did it end?
because I designed getting on for 70 gardens. We'd had wonderful experiences. We did some specials abroad. We did an orphanage in Delhi. We did the hospital quadrangle on the Falkland Islands. And we did Nelson Mandela's garden for the millennium, which was a huge treat. And to meet the man and sit down and interview him as your interview.
That's the extraordinary thing about that show. It was a garden makeover show where most of the time you had, a budget of £2,000?
Oh, if that. No, we started on about 800 or something. It was ludicrous. And then, of course, Dermot Gavin and Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen started doing their gardening and they had thousands.
Yes. Well, they needed it. They lacked talent, those two. They needed it. So, but I mean, you end up, like you say, remaking over Nelson Mandela's garden.
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever sort of step back and go, this is nuts?
Daily. Yeah, I mean, that was very special. He was so kind. Because we were told before we met him, we only met him when he came back at the end of when we'd finished the garden. And he came round and saw the garden. And we were told before he came, now Mr. Mandela doesn't do autographs anymore or anything like that. And we said, it's fine. So we're just happy to give him a garden.
And it was before the selfie.
Yes, it was. It was. And we sat down and had, a long chat. And then he said to us, if any of you want anything signed, I'd be delighted to do it. I thought, okay. And I gave him my copy of Long Walk to Freedom, which I'd taken with me when I was reading it there. So I have a copy of the Long Walk to Freedom, his autobiography, and it says in it, to Alan, a competent and caring journalist, sincerely, N. Mandela. And I thought, if anybody ever says to me I'm incompetent, I can say Nelson Mandela.
Excuse me, I think you'll find.
Competent. He was just... It was a meeting, a person I've met that was hugely influential. How you can learn so much from sitting down with a man for half an hour and feel so much and be told things that you will always remember. Like, he said, you don't realise how important plants are to me. He said the only thing in Robben Island I had any control over at all was 2 tomato plants growing in the prison yard. One of them took sick and I couldn't bring it back. It died and I took it over the other side of the prison courtyard and I gave it a burial. He said, that's how important plants are to me because they connect, they mean. And then he said the other thing that he said, I said, how can you have 27 years locked up and not be bitter? And he said, there's no time for bitterness. There's too much to do. And the other thing was the fact that he said you must compromise. On everything, you must always, always compromise. And you look at what's going on today in the world, in Gaza, in Ukraine, in Russia, and all this, you must compromise. And compromise means not getting what you want.
Yeah.
And that came from Mandela. And I thought, if he says that, I can cope with this,
So that'll explain why you've been married for 50 years then.
Yes, compromise.
Thanks. Does your wife thank Mr. Mandela every day or curse him?
She's long suffering. I think the important thing is, people, you get to this stage, people say, what's the secret? Well, you don't know the secret, but you've got to like some.
So you've got, as influences, you've got Percy Thrower. Obviously, meeting Mandela was a huge thing. Who else has kind of, would you say, shaped who you are?
Well, the first one was a man called Harry Rhodes, who was a school teacher when I was 8, and he grew cacti in a greenhouse and used to sell them at the church school bazaar. And I started off buying cacti at 6.
That must have been exotic for Ilkley, wasn't it?
Well, the cacti, it's amazing what goes on up there. And he was lovely. And his widow, bless her, Barbara, died aged 101 just a couple of weeks ago. And I used to go, every time I go to Ilkley, I used to go and see her. And there were people who saw something in you when you were young that you never saw yourself, going back to this lacking in confidence. And they were just always the yes, you can. And I'm infinitely grateful to Harry, I think, almost more than anybody in my life.
Isn't it funny that, a lot of the people I know who are successful have had that one person.
An enabler
who went, and the other thing is they're the people who are successful and happy who had that enabler. The ones who've sort of ground it out and become very wealthy or very successful or very famous or whatever, there's a kind of edge to them.
I think it's born of not really knowing who you are. And if you find out who you are and what you're good at and what you like, and then if you can, during the course of your life, prioritize the things that are really important to you, not just in terms of personal gain, But I mean, I think generosity of spirit is one of the most important characteristics that anybody can possess. Not being bitter and twisted, and particularly in our line, in the public eye, you see a lot of people who are very jealous of their territory. Oh, I can't be doing with that. I really. And the older you get, you want to pass on. You want to share. You want to see them get on.
But also the other ones that they have what we always used to describe in our family as famous person disease, which is nobody has told them to shut up in about 10 years.
Oh, I remember, I won't say the name, but I remember somebody talking about a famous film star, and they were interviewing somebody who worked with him, and he said, "What's X really like?" And the response was, "What would you be like if nobody had said no to you for 40 years?
Yeah. I mean, it can be a cursed thing.
Going back to Percy Thrower, our gardening hero, my gardening hero, and when I was very little, Mickey Hudson, the lad across the road, he and I used to go to Woolworths and buy seeds and grow them. And he said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said, "I'm going to be a postman because you finish work at 12 o'clock and you can garden all afternoon. What do you want to be?" And I said, "I want to be a Percy Thrower." And he said, "Only one Percy Thrower, blah, blah, blah." So there's that, which is quite funny. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
But the other was, when I edited Percy's autobiography, and I'd go and interview him and write it all down, he was told when he started being on television by an older gardener that he worked with, and the older gardener said to him, "It takes a good horse to carry corn." In other words, a rich diet, which is, you give horses corn, they get, a rich diet turns people's heads, just be careful. And put that handed down from Percy to me, I thought, don't write
Listen to Percy.
Yeah.
Listen to Percy. So, Alan, we've got to that time in proceedings where I hand you the Spooning with Mark Wogan blindfold. And you have to don that because I will be giving you your first spoon. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Look at that. No hesitation. A sort of blind bit of trust, quite frankly, as we unveil this magnificence here, which is something I rustled up at home for you. Hold on.
This could be very embarrassing.
It could be very embarrassing. Hopefully you'll like it. I think it's something that you've said you like.
Right. Oh.
Or is it?
Interesting sound.
Sorry, I'm actually just getting it out.
Right, okay.
If you'll excuse the terminology. There we go. So this is quite a big mouthful.
Right. Am I opening my mouth and you're putting it in? Or...
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
God, it tastes good. Oh, here we go. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell me what you've got there. What does it taste like?
Oh.
Is it good?
Chicken and leek?
Yes. And a little bit of...
pastry?
Yes.
Oh.
Chicken, leek and ham hock pie.
Oh. Can I take my blindfold off?
You can. You can. And I can hand you the
spoon
and you
look.
can keep going.
Oh. You said this is my idea of heaven. I don't. Is there something about? Is there something about pies? I mean, when they're glazed like that as well.
I mean, I do love a pie.
Oh, I love it.
I like making pies.
I've always wanted to make a pork pie. Is it cold?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Yes.
The name of the pastry. I can't
Wet
remember.
crust.
Yeah. Oh. This is. You see, the pastry is half the delight, isn't it? Thank you very much.
So now you just put a blindfold on there. And had a bit of trust and whatever. But now, my dearly departed mother tried to read one of your Mr. McGregor books once. And quite frankly, she said they were a bit too smutty.
Oh, no, not smutty. Maybe a little
racy.
Saucy.
Racy. Was there any blindfold action in the Mr. McGregor books?
I wrote it, and all the love scenes in it, sometimes sex scenes, they don't go in for... It was just called Jackie Collins' novels, the naming of parts. I don't do any of that. But you have sometimes to show how physically attracted people are to one another.
Exactly.
So it was a bit saucy, but there was nothing to frighten the horses. I never thought of your mother as being easily offended like that, like Aunt Dorothy.
Well, no, it was that thing of it's that funny Irish thing where, almost everything's on the table except the subject of sex, because that will be referred to as the bold thing. We don't talk about the bold thing. That's But those books, they sort of. I remember when they came out. It was it was so controversial that Alan Titchmarsh had written a
But I've been dealing with pollination all my life. It's my stock in trade, and seeds and propagation and all. No, it was intended to be funny, humorous, and people said, "You won the Bad Sex Award." No, I didn't. Sebastian Folkes won the Bad Sex Award that year
for Birdsong.
For I think it was Charlotte Gray, the second one.
Right.
And he didn't turn up to the Literary Review Awards ceremony, and I was foolish enough to turn up, so they gave it to me instead. It sold out anyway.
No, I mean, it was a big success, and you've continued to write fiction.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how many books are we at now across all genres?
Non-fiction, they're over 70.
It's about 70 books. Yeah. So you do have to write a lot. And we sort of touched on the discipline of writing.
Yeah.
And does that... Because a previous guest has been Jeffrey Archer, who is very disciplined about how he writes his book, and he writes them all longhand.
No, I do write at a laptop.
Yeah.
And I can write round about 2,500 words a day. And then I always have to know, I stop before I've finished the idea flow, because I tend not to plot, which is risky. Well, the one I'm writing at the moment is my first crime novel, and that's very more complicated.
Does somebody get done over with a trowel or a spade?
I'm not telling you. You'll have to wait and find that out. It'll be a while before you find out. I'm a bit slow on this one. I work at the laptop and I read the following day what I'd written the previous day and just sharpen it up a bit and whatnot. Jeffrey does about, 14 drafts or something.
Drafts. By longhand?
No.
I mean,
I am a fountain pen user, but not for writing books.
But also poetry as well.
Yeah.
You're a published poet.
I am, and I've had some great opportunities. I always pottered a bit about with poetry, but never dared call myself a poet. And then I wrote a book that was full of them. I thought, well, I suppose I am now. And I also I've done some work with the composer Debbie Wiseman, whom I love working with. Great tunesmith, Judge John Deed, Father Brown, writes great themes. We've worked together on a couple of things. One, The Glorious Garden, where I wrote poems about plants and flowers and trees, and she did a movement for each of the things I did, whether it was an oak tree or a sweet pea or whatever. And then we worked together on this thing called Jack Frost, which is a winter story. And I wrote the narrative and lyrics for a song. So as well as a poet, I've become a lyricist. And that has been... When you hear somebody play...
Where's Alan Titchmarsh, the album? Where is that? Come on. I mean,
I don't want to push it too far.
Well, look, I mean, potentially poet laureate. And now, I mean, you've got a voice, you can sing. But I think an album, or is there treading of the boards in the West End? Is there kind of?
I did it
because I could see a Henry Higgins maybe.
Maybe a few years ago, maybe a West End runner now. I think would probably kill me. I did 3 months in the West End, being the narrator in The Wind in the Willows from the Royal Ballet, which was playing Kenneth Graham with all these glorious dancers around. I loved doing that, but 3 months run is a long time.
Yes.
I did that, but in a way, it's a greater thrill. We did the abridged premiere of Jack Frost at the Albert Hall. The first performance, Royal Albert Hall, then a full performance at Cadogan Hall. And you think, this is great, this will do. And having written the lyrics and somebody sing a song with your words, that was enormously thrilling. But I would never say never. But what I would love is for one of my novels to be either televised or filmed.
Yes.
Because they're very visual. When I write them, I see them. And I've not had one adapted yet for
Nobody's
TV
picked up the rights.
Not yet, no. There was one, no. Talk about missed opportunities. I bumped into it a few years ago now. The second novel I wrote was called The Last Lighthouse Keeper, which was about they were all automated, and it was written at about the time in about 2000 when they were all 1999 when they were all automated, and it was I didn't write romantic mysteries, and it was about that. And about a couple of years later, I was with Charles Dance, and he said, "You never replied to my letter." So I said, "What letter? I didn't get a letter." And he'd apparently written saying he was interested in adapting The Last Lighthouse Keeper for film. I thought, and the moment had obviously gone, but that would have been the one.
Those sliding door moments.
Yes.
I remember Dad's great sliding door moment was being offered to invest in the Really Useful group when they were starting. And he said, "No, it's theatre. You'd never make any money out of that."
God.
I wouldn't have had to have worked again, but there we go. So we're working on a new novel, crime. There is the YouTube channel starting. But what sort of other content can people expect on the YouTube channel?
I think it's the thing about broadcasting in any kind of way, radio or television. I've always ever only thought of a person. I don't broadcast to nations because you don't. You've got a rapport with an individual. And if anything, what I'm hoping that the YouTube channel will do, and I've started doing it already, is be even more intimate, sort of one-to-one. Yes, I'm imparting knowledge, how to sow seeds and how to make them come up. But in a way, I can have a bit more slack and I can have a bit more reflection in it and be even more personable than I am at the moment. So that's...
hard out. That's hard out.
It is, yeah. No, I mean, do you remember Frankie Howard saying, somebody said to him, what's the hardest thing about being in television? He said, learning to fake sincerity. I hope I've never had a problem with that.
No, I don't think so. And hopefully you won't have a problem with your next spoon, which it's time for. So I'm going to move the pie away.
I'm really reluctant to let that go, and the rice pudding.
But I am going to have to hand you back the blindfold.
I could fail this time.
Let's take that out of the way. And
some power.
Move this one across. It's time for your second spoon.
I feel like Isabel Barnett on What's My Line?
Right, so here is, I'm going to give you a slightly small, I've got two sizes, but I'm giving you a slightly smaller.
Tell me when to open my mouth.
Open your mouth, here we go. You ready? There we go. Now, tell me, what flavours? What are we getting there?
Ooh.
Oh,
this is harder. It's delicious.
Delicious, Will. We like delicious. We're happy with delicious.
Am I getting some kind of fruit?
You are? What kind of fruit would that be?
It's quite sort of aromatic.
Could it possibly be your least favourite fruit, Alan?
It's not prune.
It is.
There was no stone in them.
Well, of course not. I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't want the dental bill.
Really? Well, what did you do with the prune?
That is braised pork with prunes.
Oh, the pork was there. I could tell there was meat in there.
Yeah.
Well, fine.
A little bit of fennel seed.
Yeah.
Just to give it a sort of, slightly licorice back note. See, look, he's having the second spoon. You see? Proving no such thing as a bad ingredient.
No. Only an ungrateful diner.
Exactly.
That was...
Unless, of course, which I do agree with you about, an avocado. Look, the face has changed.
Yes.
Alan understandably gets very annoyed about avocados. Tell us why, Al.
I get very annoyed because particularly in Mexico, which is the prime offender, 25,000 hectares, it's more than 50,000 acres of rainforest are felled every year to plant avocados, each fruit of which takes 320 litres of water. And then in a place where water is scarce, in Chile and Peru,
for the tree
to mature. And then they're shipped across the ocean 5,500 miles so that environmentalists can have them on sourdough toast. And I just think, no, I'm not a finger wagger by nature, but I thought, do you really want to eat that when you know where it's been?
I am a fan of guacamole. I'm not going to lie.
Why don't you just have mushy peas instead?
Well, this was my point. We did this experiment. So that whole thing of avocado on toast, right? If you get some lovely fresh garden peas, cook them a little bit longer than you would think was normal, a little bit of Greek yogurt in there, a little bit of fresh chili, squeeze a lemon. You could even add a little bit of roasted garlic into that. Blitz those up. Spread those on your sourdough toast. Put a poached egg on top of it.
Alternatively,
have Shreddies
for breakfast.
But that is actually, I think, nicer than an avocado.
Yeah.
I do agree. I kind of, that whole thing of like, could I have crushed avocado? The crushed avocado. Sod off.
I know. It's just...
I mean, I do like avocado. I'm not saying I would, I cannot.
Well, I then, of course, I had
loads.
I had several. I had two. Well, one and a bit from avocado growing conglomerates or whatever saying ours are sustainably, blah, 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 blah. But you need to know that the majority, and apparently the majority of the Mexican ones go to the States, but still the ones that come to us from Chile and Peru in places really short of water, and they've still got that journey of thousands of miles across the ocean. It's just whether or not you are happy to eat something that's done that to the environment or not, up to you. I just wanted people to be aware.
And I think it is an important point to make about them, because everybody's eating them because they think they're good for them and they're this and that, and there are so many other things you could be eating that they don't chop down 50,000 hectares of rainforest to feed you, like mushy peas.
Exactly.
Well, Alan, I cannot thank you enough for taking on the spoons. I'm very glad that we have potentially changed your...
You have, yeah. If you take the stone out, mash it up, and put it with a bit of pork, I'll eat a prune.
Eat it all day long. But that is all for this week. Big thanks, of course, to Alan, and you can watch out for his new YouTube channel and see him every weekend on Love Your Weekend. Until next week, stay beautiful.